will be Konexial. So perfect segue into our next guest. We're going to be welcoming founder and CTO of Konexial, Ken Evans. Going to be talking about the importance of the tech stack. Ken, pleasure getting to have you on and getting to talk to you as well.
Yeah, Thomas, really nice to be on. What a great event you guys are putting on to focus on enterprise fleets, and we're really excited to be a content sponsor. So can't wait to spend a few minutes with you here.
I'm looking forward to it as well. I tell people it's almost, when you talk about sizes of fleets, enterprise fleets operate in this whole different world. And so I get a lot of questions when I talk to people from small fleets. What is a tech stack? What do you mean by a tech stack? And for them, it could be like a spreadsheet and then they're using an app or something. And so for large fleets, when I came from one, the tech stack literally felt like various departments all coming together to figure it out. For folks who want to know the importance and what is a large fleet tech stack, give us a little quick around the world for some folks who may not be as familiar.
Yeah, I would encourage you to think, when we talk about tech stacks, think in terms of layers of systems. Just like if you're going to go out into the cold, you're going to wear layers of clothing, right? So if you think about it, you've got your traditional kind of telematics in-cab technology. So these are systems that help the driver track his information, helps him to know what's going on with the vehicle, and reports key data back to the management system. So you've got in-cab as kind of your first layer of tech in the tech stack. The next layer, you really would be moving up to something like a fleet management system. So this is a system that's going to not only help you manage your people, your drivers, but also manage all the assets, all the power units, all the trailers, any sensors that are involved, and also manage locations, right? So being able to track where all of these assets are and people are relative to location, and then be able to act on it. So you've got the in-cab layer, you've got the fleet management system layer, and then the next level would really be more your traditional load management and execution layer. So this is where a lot of people talk about, quote, TMS systems. That's a kind of a historical term that actually has many different definitions. But basically, those are the three kind of layers of technology. And then I would add a fourth one, which is visibility and capability to share that information. So when people want to talk about their tech stack, the question is, how many layers do you have? How well do they talk to each other or work with each other? And then how does it solve the problem, right?
Yeah, and I feel like that's really, it's almost like, you know, when you see the invention of the wheel, then it becomes a cart, then it becomes like a race car. A fleet tech stack, I think for a lot of folks to get hung up on the first layer, which is, how do I even manage my assets? Where are they? And then, oh, how do I manage my drivers? How do I manage this? Looking at the past compared to now, I feel like back in the day, the biggest challenge was simply knowing where everything is. And now when we're talking about integrations and stuff, what's the current situation when we're looking into that? Like, how are we viewing integrations, and how are they normally trying to, you know, make it happen, so to speak? Because it can be really difficult with APIs and everything else.
Yeah, so that's a really good question, because what we see is that once you start getting over 100 trucks in your fleet, the real pain comes from trying to do integrations. And so trying to make, say, your in-cab ELD system work with your camera technology, to work with your trailer tracking, and then on up the chain into these higher level systems that are really, I mean, where your stuff is table stakes. If you can't do that, it's really hard to stay in business today. So the real questions is, how do I put a stack in place that's easy to deploy, that's affordable and quick to deploy, and I don't have to spend months and quarters trying to figure out how to integrate it to different systems and other levels. So one of the things that really is resonating with our customers, and we have some pretty large customers, some Fortune 150 customers, we're bringing to them kind of a tech stack that it's basically a zero integration tech stack. And so basically they can get in one dashboard, in one view, tools that work in the cab at the fleet management level, executing the loads, and then providing really live-based visibility. And live visibility is a whole different game than, quote, real-time visibility or what people are used to. Being able to see the vehicle live as it happens with no lag, and communicate live as it happens, and view cameras live as they happen, that is kind of what's available now in these newer tech solutions.
And I think this brings in a great thing that you want to avoid having a disjointed tech stack. And I've seen it where even at a large asset fleet of 5,000 trucks, I didn't always see everything because we had a different piece of tech for each. And it just happened to not be my job to get access to this when maybe I should have. Looking at common mistakes, how to prevent a disjointed tech stack. One, from your customers, and what are the biggest telltale signs that I may have some disjointed problems, and what are the biggest common mistakes people are making when either they have a disjointed one or they're trying to improve it?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So it really does start with a holistic approach, right? So you have to have high quality data gathering, so devices, hardware, etc. But more important than the device is actually the reliability of the chain of custody of the information. Okay, this is where we get into things like edge computing. So if you're looking to deploy or upgrade your tech stack, some of the questions you need to be asking are, how does this technology work when network coverage has a gap, right? Where is the processing actually done that supports the driver? And if you're looking at technology that cannot handle being out of network, that does not work the same for the driver when the network is unavailable, or that can create holes where data can fall through, that's where you need to take a serious look at that. So I would say number one is you've got to look for modern in-cab technology. It's got to basically work all the time for the driver, regardless of network connectivity challenges. That, let's face it, all networks in the U.S. have connectivity challenges. Second, I would say you need to definitely be looking at lower cost, standardized devices to handle processing and input. Particularly pay attention to Apple and its Apple Silicon, which is providing some amazing edge compute capability today. Also, some of our customers use Android, but if you're going to use Android, you need to be buying an Android device that is on the same level of capability as the Apple devices as far as providing compute power. I also would tell people that you need to look for hardware that can be easily installed. So if it's taking you more than 10 seconds to install your telemetry unit, it's taking too long. And if it's taking more than 10 to 30 minutes to install a camera solution, a mesh camera, a mesh AI solution, that's also taken too long, because people are used to the legacy technology, which is, it takes me a day off the road or 2 days off the road per vehicle to install this stuff. Well, that's just not acceptable. The last thing I would tell you is that on device, at least as far as device technology level in the stack, you really need to be critically evaluating trailer tracking. You need to be looking at satellite-based trailer tracking, and the device needs to last for the lifetime of the asset it's tracking. In other words, you don't want to pull it in and touch it, every few years to maintain it or fix something. And also, those devices need to be Apex 2 explosion-proof devices, because you never know when your equipment's going to wind up in an environment where it's exposed to some other type of danger.
I think that's a great point. I've had anyone who says telematics is perfect should try driving between Utah and the Mojave Desert if they're running loads from California to Utah, because the ELDs will cut out, sometimes the cell, if it's using an LTE. I think that's a great point. And one of these things is, if I'm looking at in-cab systems, let's say I'm using a very legacy one, the old school one's mounted in the dash and it's from like 20 years ago. If I'm looking to upgrade my stack and I'm looking to try and future-proof a little bit, What are some of the biggest areas in terms of connectivity I should handle? Because I'm assuming everything's bandwidth hungry. If we're having live facing cameras, live tracking, it's going to use a lot of data.
Yeah, it gets down to how the system is architected. So the most modern systems now, what they've done is, in the past, the systems you're describing gather lots of data, they transmit it all back to a giant cloud server, they process it all, and then they send answers back, right? That's actually the opposite of the way it's being done now and the innovations that have been made. Edge computing basically takes all that processing power and moves it out to the edge, out to the compute device in the cab. So basically think of it as, hey, I have the server inside the cab in the form of an app on one of these super powerful smartphones. So the benefits of that are, not only can I use standard hardware that performs a lot better, we're seeing customers, particularly with Apple hardware, we're seeing customers that are giving 7 years plus useful life out of their devices, whether it's an iPhone or an iPad. And that's a pretty high standard, and if something goes down, it's easy enough just to replace. So, I think that's a big part of making a good decision for the long term, is choosing the right compute partner to do that. But that processing on the edge is really kind of what covers that situation you were talking about. Your example was Mojave Desert. Mine is, I used to drive from Wichita, Kansas to Knoxville, Tennessee, and you'd go through the middle of Missouri through the Ozark National Forest, and they have a 1G network. ELDs don't really work in that environment. So basically that's part of what led to us developing this robust move the server into the app process where everything is happening on the edge, and it provides huge cost benefits. You can process a ton more data, and it's actually much more secure as well because it's a decentralized compute system.
I like how edge computing is now quite literally the leading edge. Ken, about to run out of time here. If folks want to learn more, get in touch, or learn more about Konexial as well, what's the best way to get in contact?
Absolutely, Thomas. You can reach us at Konexial.com, Konexial.com. Or you can call us anytime. We're happy to talk to you. That's one of the things we get really high marks for from customers is we answer the phone and we do a good job communicating with them when they have an issue. So you can also find us on Amazon under the My20 brand of telematics. So if Konexial is too hard to remember, just Google My20, you'll find us.
Perfect. Ken, thanks so much for your time. Looking forward to seeing the tech. It's moving from the cloud into your hand. It's awesome stuff.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.